The following is a presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for high school sports. This is Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN.
Happy Chinese New Year, everybody. It is the year of the dragon. Chinese New Year officially beginning today. And yes, I just did learn that from the CBS News report. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. I'm your host, AJ Shaw. Of course, our show brought to you by the great folks at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. Got a couple of announcements to make before we get started here today. First off, we are now officially on Spotify. The podcast went up last week. So what I want you to do is, if you missed the show, go to Spotify, get it on your website, on the internet, on your application. Type in KMAN Scoreboard Saturday. It's KMAN''S Scoreboard Saturday. And go ahead and hit follow. And you won't miss an episode. We upload right after the show is finished. So yeah, we will we have the podcast up on Spotify. We're trying to get it up on Apple Podcasts. We're having a couple of issues with that, but we should have that up by next week. Give me a follow on Twitter at RealShawfather. I'll keep you guys updated on that. But yep, we are now officially on Spotify, so go check it out. KMAN Scoreboard Saturday. Click follow, and you'll never miss an episode. It's pretty much everything that we cover here. We talk NCKL, Mid-East League, Centennial League, Twin Valley League, so we have a lot of fun. So go check out the podcast. I have the 30 for 30 on the 2000 Ravens over in the corner, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on that at the same time. I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm kind of a good multitasker. But we're going to get into some high school basketball. Big week for the Manhattan Indians. 3 games, including back-to-backs on Monday and Tuesday. Manhattan girls goes 2-1. They pick up victories over Topeka High on Tuesday and Junction City last night. But the big game definitely for sure last night was the Junction City Manhattan boys game, a game that could have determined or could be the determining factor in who finishes with the top spot in the Centennial League. Junction City had not lost a league game since they faced Manhattan back on January 5th in Manhattan, that thrilling game that the Indians won 65-64. But last night, Junction City returns the favor. 56-53 your final. The Blue Jays pick up the victory. And for Junction City now, sitting very comfortable at the top of the Centennial League, 15-2 overall, 6-1 in league play. With 3 games to go in their season, they got Topeka Hayden on Tuesday, a very good Emporia team on Friday, and then Topeka High on next Tuesday, the 20th of February. But after the game, Troy Coverdale had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Manhattan boys coach Benji George.
Indians head coach Benji George joining us here courtside. And Benji, as I was noting, high-caliber basketball game really throughout the course of this one tonight, in which neither team was able to build too much of a lead. And when opportunities presented themselves, each team took advantage of chances.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm able to zoom out from the emotion of it and everything, I know you could look at the game and say, well, it was a great high school basketball game. It was. It's again, the best environment in the state in this game. We went toe-to-toe with them on their home floor, and I'm proud of what we left out there. I thought we played incredibly hard. I thought our communication was good. I thought throughout the entire course of the game we answered every big play with a big play, until the very end. They just made one more than we did. We had to overcome a lot. I mean, Asher was probably our most productive player, and he had to sit for 12 minutes in the first half because of the 2 touch fouls, and then we just kind of kept plugging along. I thought we did enough defensively to keep him off balance. I thought if the game was in the 50s, I thought I'd really like our chances. The guys followed it. We had a different defensive game plan, and the guys followed it to a T. And I just kept, I just beg our guys, just keep believing in us, keep doing what you're doing, and in these close ones, it's going to turn around.
Really, a couple of plays that stand out at the tail end of this ball game. None more so than Larkin Turner getting that offensive rebound on a second try after he had just missed. But those are the types of games that in a game like this, or the type of plays that in a game like this wind up being difference makers. and yet you were in position.
You can X and O, all you want with stuff like that, but a lot of times it does come down to a bobble of a ball and, who ends up with a 50-50 ball. I mean, credit to Turner. He had a heck of a game, and our defensive game plan was geared towards stopping their guards, and I thought we did a good job on their guards. But, he filled that void around the rim, and it's hard to tell our bigs when you work on help defense so much to not help. And, we tried to make that adjustment, but it just, again, but, credit to Asher, too. I thought Asher answered, as well as he could have, with some of the big plays he made. But, it's just, I think, two good teams going toe-to-toe, and it didn't come out on our side.
You mentioned the fact that Asher had to sit those 12 minutes in the first half because of foul trouble. Sam Spiegel came off the bench and gave you good minutes, as well as coming up with 6 points in that time frame.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, we needed it. We needed to keep a body around the rim, and that's Sam. I mean, that's Sam. He's going to be ready when his number's called, and whether it's for 7 minutes in a game or whether it's for what it was tonight, he's ready to go. He's a great teammate. He plays incredibly hard, and he did have a good game. And I don't want it to be overlooked too that Sawyer Newton came in the first half, and I thought gave us a real spark off the bench, and it just one of those deals. I thought we got great contributions from Elijah McFadden too. It's just, again, it came down to a play here, a play there.
Hard to believe that we've talked about here the number of overtimes that I've been at the mic for you guys, but you've been able to pull those out for the most part. This one's a little tougher to swallow tonight because you fall, and we're right in that position.
Yeah, we were in a tough spot. 18 seconds, you're down 3, but we didn't have a timeout. And so you could still get a 2 there, but you can't stop the clock.
Right.
So we had a little, stagger and a one more that we ran. We went too quick with it. We were into it way too quick, and then we didn't get the look we wanted. Jason got an okay look, hit the back iron, but that's just a tough spot to be in when you can't stop the clock.
Now you turn around, 3 games remain. Emporia's the first of those, and I know you want to get them back for the loss at their place not all that far long ago. Talk about here what's left in front of you.
Yeah, I just, I told my biggest fear is that when guys are pouring into it the way we have, and they're not getting the results they want, that on some level they stop doing that. And I told him the only thing I can guarantee is that if we stop being positive and we stop doing what we're doing, then it's not going to turn around. I can't guarantee it will turn around, but I can guarantee it won't if we stop doing the things we're doing. So we have to be tough and play a grinded out game on Tuesday, and we're due. I mean, we're due against Emporia. We feel like, and next week's a big week for us.
Okay, good luck. We'll catch up to you later.
All right, thanks,
Benji. Benji George again catching us up here at half court after the Indians fall tonight by this one to Junction City by the final of 56-53.
That was Troy Coverdale. Benji George, Manhattan boys coach, as the Indians fall at Junction City 56-53. And I think Manhattan Mercury put it best. Toby Hammis, good friend of mine over at the Mercury. Manhattan boys fall to Junction City in a rivalry slugfest. And I love this first line here. In the first matchup between the rivals this season, Manhattan came away with a narrow 65-64 win at home, handing the Blue Jays their first loss of the season. The story Friday night was eerily similar, with the home crowd being the difference in a competitive matchup. And Troy mentioned this on the broadcast last night, that the Blue Jays have been playing in the Junction City Event Center now for 3 years, and all 3 times now they've beaten Manhattan. And that crowd plays such a big difference. And we saw it last night. And in the end, Junction City, with all due respect to Manhattan, Junction City is just the better team right now. Nick Perez's team is playing at an incredibly high level. They're number 2 in the state of Kansas in 6A. 4 in the state of Kansas in 6A. Somebody mentioned 2 to me. It's actually 6. They're 4 currently in 6A behind Blue Valley Northwest, Shawnee Mission Northwest, and Wichita Heights. They're just a better basketball team right now, and that's nothing against Manhattan. They had a great effort last night, but Junction City's a tough cookie, especially when you're facing them at home. And Junction City has not lost a home game this season. Their lone loss that was non-tournament was at Manhattan back on the 5th of January. They're unbeaten at the Junction City Event Center this year, and they have 3 games left, and right now sitting pretty comfortably in the Centennial League when it comes to their standings, and we'll obviously take a look at the Centennial League standings a little bit later. We mentioned Manhattan girls. They came away with the 61-18 victory last night. They're sitting at 10-7, a 2-1 week for them, and currently they are in 4th or apologies, yes, they are in fourth, or tied for third, I should say, with Topeka Hayden in the Centennial League. Topeka Hayden girls actually lost last night, and they had kind of a rough week. Hold on a second. I got to get my spreadsheet here correctly. I got a lot of teams here. It was a rough week for Topeka Hayden. They lost a road contest to a really good Emporia team that's unbeaten in Centennial League play. And then they lost a 2-point game last night on the road to Washburn Rural, who now moves into second in the Centennial League standings on the girls' side. Also on the boys' side, you have Washburn Rural. They had a win last night because Emporia boys ended up losing a game to Washburn Rural last week. They have the tiebreaker. And Nick Perez, when we talked to him a few weeks back, he said it's very similar. The Centennial League is very similar to the SEC in college football. I have to agree with that. I would say it's very similar to the Big 12 in college basketball. You never know. The standings can change daily. And right now, it's a 2-game lead on the girls' side for Emporia. They're at 7-0. Junior Blues, Lady Junior Blues, they're 5-2. And then you have a tie with Hayden and Manhattan. Manhattan lost the game to Topeka Hayden back on February 2nd last week, and their last game of the season will be against Topeka Hayden on February 20th. That'll be a home tilt for Manhattan High School, and we'll have that game for you here on News Radio KMAN. But 3 games to go for Manhattan. Emporia on Tuesday. Manhattan girls, that's going to be a tough contest, as I mentioned. Emporia 7-0 in Centennial League play. Then they got to go on the road to Washburn Rural. That's another team that's very tough. They're second, sitting at 5-2. That's a game that the Manhattan girls ended up losing at home on Monday in a very tight ball game, a 2-point loss. And then you got Topeka Hayden, who, when they played Manhattan, they beat them by 3. So for Manhattan girls, you have 3 incredibly tough games on Tuesday, Friday, and then February 20th to wrap up your season. This is the time now, if you're Scott Mall's team, that you got to step up and really make some big plays for your team in this situation. And then again, of course, for Manhattan boys, same schedule. You have Topeka Hayden, who's not great. You did beat Topeka Hayden, the boys' side, last Friday by 12 points. But Washburn Rural second, and Emporia boys, they're third. They're tied with Washburn Rural. Washburn Rural has the tiebreaker. So right now, those standings looking pretty interesting. We'll discuss more about that coming up next here on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications. We're back here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. AJ Shaw, your host with you. Of course, we're brought to you by the great folks at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Keep your home or business in the game, or get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. I was listening to Troy's ad there, that little spot there that we had, about the Cabo trip. And this is something that's really cool. So Cabo St. Lucas, we're giving away an all-expense-paid trip next February to Cabo with a 2-bedroom beachfront condo at Villa La Valencia and a flight for 2 out of Manhattan Regional Airport. It's brought to you by Briggs Auto. This is pretty cool. Jerome Tang has vacation there. Now, I have never been to Cabo before. I've been to Mexico once. I went to Mexico about 20 years ago. I was like 2.5 years old. I was a mess. But this was back in the days where you didn't need a passport to get into Mexico. It's a little different now. You have to passport to get in. But this is a beautiful area, I'm told. So make sure to listen to K-Man. Listen to the morning show with Troy Coverdale and Brandon Peoples. It's pretty cool. And Briggs Auto is our sponsor. We'll name our first location sponsor next week on the morning show. So tune in 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. here on News Radio KMAN. All right, back to basketball. We were talking Centennial League standings in our last segment. Of course, Manhattan, the boys have dug themselves into kind of a hole after losing on the road to Junction City last night in a very good ball game. Currently, Junction City sitting at the top with a 1-game lead over Washburn Rural and Emporia with 3 to play in the season. Manhattan currently sits in 4th on the boys' portion of the Centennial League standings at 4-3, and then you got Topeka High at 1-6 and Topeka Hayden at 0-7. So right now it's a 4-man race, I think Manhattan still has a shot, but next week's going to be tough. You got 2 games against the 2 and 3 third place teams, second and third place teams in the Centennial League for Manhattan boys. We talked about it a little bit at the end of our last segment, how tough these last 3 games are going to be for Manhattan girls. You know, they were able to come away with a couple big wins against teams they needed to beat in Junction City and Topeka High, but they lost a game to Washburn Rural by 2 on Monday. Good fight in that one. And they lost a game to Topeka Hayden last Friday. But they get to play them again. The Washburn Rural Tilt next Friday. That's a road contest. And then the Topeka Hayden game is on the 20th. And I mentioned Topeka Hayden girls are struggling. Last 2 games haven't gone their way. They lost by 12 on Tuesday to Emporia, and they lost by 2 to Washburn Rural last night. They have 4 remaining. Junction City and Topeka High next week. They got Manhattan on the 20th, and then they have Eudora. That's a makeup game from earlier in the season to wrap up their portion of the schedule on February 22nd. We jump now over to Junction City boys. They have 3 left. They got Topeka Hayden Tuesday night at home. Emporia next Friday. That's a big ball game, and then Topeka High to wrap up their season. Washburn Rural. Even though they have a losing overall record, they've won 5 of their 7 conference games. They took down Topeka Hayden last night by 21, 62-41. That after they lost a game by 8 to Junction City on Tuesday. They got Topeka High. We mentioned the Manhattan game. And then they don't play for a week. Their final game is against Emporia on the 23rd. And they beat the Spartans back on February 2nd, last Friday, on the road at Emporia, 48-31. So despite the losing record, Washburn Rural, they're sitting in a pretty good position. They're 5-2. They got the tiebreaker over Emporia for second place. They don't get to play Junction City again, unfortunately. So Junction City has the tiebreaker currently over Emporia, unless Junction City drops their last 2 games and drops 2 games in the league, and Emporia just wins out. Emporia wins it. But right now, Junction City's sitting in the driver's seat for the Centennial League standings. Washburn Rural girls, they're at 5-2. They got Topeka High on Tuesday as well. They took down Topeka Hayden in a tight game last night, 46-44. So, you know, that's right now, if you're looking at Topeka Hayden, they were 13-1. They're now 13-3, and while that's good, 4-3 in the conference certainly doesn't help, as they are currently holding the tiebreaker over Manhattan. NCKL, we take a quick look at that. Right now, the NCKL is kind of a mixed bag. On the girls' portion, Wamego, they are currently at the top. It's kind of a rough week, though, for Brian McIntosh's team, to say the least. They dropped a game on the road to Chapman on Tuesday by 12, 45-33. But last night they beat Abilene. Now, this is an Abilene team that hasn't won a game this season. They're 0-16, and Abilene gave them a fight last night. Wamego narrowly held on for the 50-46 win. Lexi Heck now back in the lineup after missing a couple of weeks with an injury. She had 21 points. Sarah Springer had 13 for Wamego as they came away with the victory. They have 4 games left in their season. That includes 2 games against a Concordia team that is currently third in the NCKL on the girls' portion of things. Marysville currently in second at 4-3. But really, kind of right now, Wamego's got that advantage. They got a 1.5 game lead on Marysville, a 2.5 game lead on Concordia. So a lot of things starting to kind of play in as we see the picture going into the final week of the season. You have Abilene, of course, on the boys' portion. They are red hot right now. They haven't lost in conference action yet, 7-0. The Abilene boys able to take down Wamego boys. Where is my cursor at here? There we go. We got Abilene boys. They were able to come away with the win over Wamego last night. 14-2 record overall, 7-0 in conference. They got a non-league battle with Hayes on Tuesday. Then they got to take on a Clay Center team. Clay Center boys, they're 9-7, but tied with Concordia. Now, Concordia with a half-game lead, and they hold the tiebreaker right now over the Tigers. The Tigers lost a game to Concordia way back in December. That was during the winter break where we didn't have a show. They will have one more contest with Concordia. That's Tuesday the 20th, a road tilt. That could be a big ball game right there. And they have to wrap their season up against Abilene on the road. So Clay Center, 3 of their last 4 games, it's going to be tough. And 2 of the 3 against Abilene. That's tough. The Tigers, they're going to have to try to figure it out as you look at it over here. Clay Center at 4-2, Concordia at 4-2, Wamego boys sitting at 5-11, 2-4, and then you got Marysville and Chapman at the bottom. In the Mid-East League, Big ball game last night between Silver Lake and Rossville. Rossville and Silver Lake, two of the top teams in the state in a girls matchup, and Silver Lake just continues to show how dominant they truly are. They won it 68-39. They're 17-0. 8-0 in conference play. Rossville girls get their second loss. They drop to 13-4. So I think it's safe to say the Mid-East League is going to be going to Silver Lake on the girls' side. Rossville in second. Wabaunsee Chargers, they ended up losing a game to Riley County last night. Riley County having a nice week. The Falcons, both the boys and girls, the boys in particular, but the girls coming away with an upset win. They've won 3 of 4 and 4 of 6, Kelsey Nelson's team. And then on the boys' side, 2 straight wins. They knocked down St. Mary's in a big ball game on Monday by a point, and last night picked up the 5-point road victory, did Riley County boys, as they're sitting at 5-11 with 4 games to go in their season. The Mid-East League leaders, of course, on the boys' side, Rock Creek at 8-0, one of our area teams. We talked, of course, with their head coach, Justin Smith, last week on the show. They picked up a big win over St. Mary's. St. Mary's struggling here in the month of February on the boys' side of things. They've gone 1-3 in the month of February. They lost 3 straight games. Lost that game to Riley County on Monday. Lost to Centralia on Tuesday. That was a TVL non-con game. And then they dropped that contest on the road at Rock Creek last night. They got 4 games in a row coming up. They got Osage City, Council Grove, and Wabaunsee, a 3-game road trip before they wrap up their portion of the schedule on the 22nd when they take on Riley County. You hear the music. That means we have to take a quick time out, but when we come back, we'll talk with Blue Valley Randolph coach Blake Fronce, his team on a 7-game winning streak. We'll hear from Coach Fronce coming up next on Scoreboard Saturday here on News Radio KMAN. News Radio KMAN, Scoreboard Saturday on this February the 10th, 2024. AJ Shaw, your host, with you. Big ball game tomorrow evening. The Kansas City Chiefs in their 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years as they'll take on San Francisco, looking to form a modern-day dynasty, trying to win their 3rd championship in the last 5 years. Pre-game coverage starts at 1 p.m. here on News Radio KMAN, with kickoff at 5:30 from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Chiefs and the 49ers, as Patrick Mahomes tries to cement his legacy. Big ball game, a lot of pressure on both sides. Chiefs trying to become a dynasty. The 49ers trying to get over the hump after, of course, losing to KC in 2020 in the Super Bowl, losing in back-to-back NFC Championship games to the Rams in 22 and the Eagles in 23. So a lot of pressure on Kyle Shanahan, too, because of his legacy in the Super Bowl of blowing a couple of biggish leads, obviously the 28-3, and then kind of a biggish lead against the Chiefs in that Super Bowl in 2020. And then you got the Chiefs, like I said, they're trying to become a dynasty, and there's a lot of pressure on a lot of the players. But anyways, Chiefs and 49ers coming up tomorrow. Pregame starts at 1 here on News Radio KMAN. Big sports weekend for you. We have K-State women's basketball here today, also on our sister station, Sunny 102.5. They'll be taking on Oklahoma State today. If I'm not mistaken, I have to just make sure I'm correct on that. Yes, I am correct. Oklahoma State today. That's a 3:30 pregame here on KMAN and over on Sunny 102.5, our sister station, with a 4 o'clock tip from Bramlage. And then later tonight we'll have K-State men's basketball when they head to 21st-ranked BYU. Pregame will start at 8 here on News Radio KMAN. So busy sports weekend as the Cats look to try to build off their big win over KU on Monday. All right, we told you at the end of our last segment, Blake Fronce would be joining us in this segment, the Blue Valley Randolph coach, whose team is on a great run here of late, 7 straight wins after a 3-6 start. And Coach, we'll start off with that. Your team just continues to really roll with 7 straight wins. What has kind of gone into your team's success here of late?
Yeah, this was our 3rd team playing Washington. They actually beat us the first time. Braden Brockman led the way with, I think, 21 points and 14 rebounds. He's actually our point guard. He's averaging 9 rebounds a game, which is pretty good for a point guard, and 16 points, 5 assists. He's he's playing really well. But other than that, just in our little stretch of wins here, we have a lot of balance. He kind of leads the way. Maybe not always the leading scorer, but he's our most consistent. And then we get a lot of balance after that. So, yeah, we're playing well right now, and Braden's been kind of our more consistent player.
Yeah, Braden Brockman definitely has been a guy that has played a great role for you guys. You picked up that 24-point victory. You guys have really just been on a roll since the TVL tournament. To listeners out there that may not know a whole lot about that, just kind of talk about that experience, how that went for you guys. You guys went 2-1. Even in your only loss, you played really well against a good Frankfort team. Only lost that one by 1 point.
Yeah, we had a really good year last year. We were 18-5. Going into this year, we lost 6 seniors last year, and we still knew that we'd be pretty good. We knew it'd be tough. But the league was a little younger last year, and losing 6 seniors, that you think it'd be a big drop off, but like just summer league and all that, we kind of had a good feeling going into the year, and we lost. I think six. We've lost 7 games, and 6 of them have been by 6 or less points. And it was tough. We were frustrated, but at the same time, we were relatively positive because we knew we had a good squad, and we just needed to kind of get over the hump and win some close games or a close game, and we've just been rolling ever since. So.
There's a lot of teams, obviously, in Twin Valley League. A lot of teams are very tough to play against. Who would you say is one of the tougher teams you guys have had to face this year?
Well, Clifton Clyde's definitely the toughest, yeah. So I said we lost 6 games by 6 or less points, and our other loss, our 7th loss, was against Clifton Clyde, and that one was by 16. But and then we have Axel coming up, who's another tough team. Hanover's tough. Mm-hmm. But really, at the end of the day, TVL is always tough, but this year it really is true that anybody can beat anybody. So I think on any given night, whoever's hot is winning that game. And there's definitely some teams that are a little more consistent, but at the end of the day, whoever's hot is going to win the game.
Absolutely. You mentioned you only lost. The losses are only really close, but your victories, you had a big win over Onega. You had a big win over Washington County. You mentioned Braden Brockman is definitely a key to your success. What else would you say kind of goes into your team's success of late?
Yeah, so I go probably 7 or 8 deep, depending on the night. We did lose one player to injury, but I have another couple guys that are stepping up. But I think what goes into it is just getting some contribution from, or just like consistency from some of our role players. Trey Sump, when he's shooting well, we really tend to roll. Landon Schreiber and Dakota Krause, they're our seniors, and they've been pretty consistent all year too. So I've kind of had 3 consistent scorers and everything else with Landon Schreiber, Dakota Krause, and Braden Brockman. But when I get those other role players rolling, they kind of feed off each other, and that's when we really are clicking and blow open the doors. So just getting some of those role players going is huge for us.
What would you say is your team's philosophy this year? Is it defense? Is it offense? What would you say is your team's philosophy?
It's definitely a mixture, but we really play well when we are just running and gunning. I think our defense is definitely another key. And here lately, we really have locked down on defense, but more so, we are just getting up and down the court and getting good shots up, and we're sharing the ball well. So I'd say those are our keys.
You have a week off between your last game and Centralia on Tuesday. How is your team kind of preparing, having that bit of a hiatus?
Yeah, I'm trying not to focused on Centralia so much. We kind of, at this point in the year, we've kind of got put in what we want to put in. We definitely have worked on them, but right now I've been doing a lot of situational stuff with late game situations, just to kind of freshen things up, and keep doing what we're doing at the same time, and then come Monday I'll probably lock into Centralia a little bit more.
Awesome. A couple more questions from me. Recently, Keisha announced they're going to implement a trial run for the shot clock next year. That's going to be 35 seconds. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I want to get it here at Blue Valley. The problem is that it's expensive, and you got to find people to work. And I do understand that it's difficult to implement. And I think eventually, over time, everybody will have the shot clock, but it might take several years. But I like it just because of the way we play. We have teams that want to slow the game down, and if they do a good job of it, then it makes a tough game for us because we want to get out and run.
Well, you got 2 of your last 3 games at home. You got Centralia, as I mentioned, Axtell, and then Valley Heights to wrap it up. As you get into postseason, how do you try to get the mindset with your guys, kind of saying, hey, guys, we're getting into that stretch drive now. We want to just continue to play our best basketball as we get into the latter stage of the season, into the playoffs with sub-state and hopefully the state tournament?
Yeah, we just got to continue to do what we've been doing lately. In practice, we get up and down. I try not to focus on too much of playoff like basketball, but I want to continue to do what we do. At the same time, this week off stretch, I've kind of used it as an opportunity to kind of prepare for those sub-state games. Like I said, I'm working on situational stuff quite a bit here, and I guess this week has been kind of our chance. Even though we're not in the playoffs yet, I used it as an opportunity to kind of work on, I guess, sub-state type basketball. And after that, I just want to continue to practice the way we usually practice and play the way we usually play, which is getting up and down, pressuring the ball, and trying to speed the game up as much as possible.
Do you guys run a lot of zone press or man-to-man? What do you usually do on defense? What are you usually running?
We do run a man-to-man trapping press, but for the most part, we just run man-to-man. I'd like to run more press, but we seem to have more success when we just go man-to-man. And we're doing a really good job of late. And I usually use the man-to-man press as kind of a switch-up. So, yeah, that's what we do on defense. We don't run a lot of zone unless we need it. So.
How long have you been to Blue Valley Randolph, by the way?
This is my 9th year.
All right, then. Well, Coach, it was a pleasure to talk with you, and it's great to see you guys playing well lately. Good luck to you guys the rest of the way, and hopefully we can talk down the road.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, AJ.
Blue Valley boys coach Blake Fronce joining us here on Scoreboard Saturday. Thanks to him for talking with us, and his team looking really good right now, as we mentioned. 10-6 on the season. They've won 7 consecutive ball games, and they are 6-4 for the season with 3 more games to play. They, of course, beat Washington County 71-47 the other night on Tuesday. When we come back, we'll dive into some more scores across the TVL and also look at the latest KBCA rankings. It's all coming up next on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications. We're back here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. On this Saturday, Andrew Joseph Shaw, your host. Yes, that is my real name. AJ is my nickname. I know my mom is out there listening, and she appreciates that. Anyways, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we are now on Spotify. We have a podcast. So right after the program, Go over to Spotify, type in K-Man Scoreboard Saturday, hit the follow button, and you will not miss an episode. We upload the show right after the program ends at 9 o'clock. Still watching this documentary on the 2000 Ravens. Some of you know I am from Chicago. And even though I wasn't around for the 85 Bears, I still view them as the greatest defense of all time for a single season. But those 2000 Ravens, man, geez, they were incredible. Especially their run defense, because up front they had two mammoth defensive tackles in the late Tony Saragusa and Sam Adams, the linebacking core of Jamie Sharper, Peter Boulware, and Hall of Famer Ray Lewis. Man, that defense was just insane. And, they made Trent Dilfer a Super Bowl champion. So, also one other thing I want to mention here, the Briggs Auto Lane Passport to Cabo. We're giving away an all-expense-paid trip next February to Cabo, St. Lucas, with a 2-bedroom beachfront condo at Villa La Valencia and a flight for 2 out of Manhattan Regional Airport. It's an 8-day, 7-night trip, and it's a beautiful area. So keep listening to K-Man. We'll have the first sponsor next week on the K-Man Morning Show with Troy Coverdale and Brandon Peoples beginning at 6 a.m. You definitely want to keep listening to K-Man, because whoever wins this opportunity to go to Cabo, they're going to have a great time. Beautiful area. And, whoever gets it, I'm going to be jealous of them, because this is a very nice place. Anyways, let's get into some of the TVL scores quickly, and then we'll dive into the new KBCA rankings. Not a ton of changes there, but we did mention earlier Junction City bumped up to 6th. The only score I could not find from last night was the Doniphan West Hanover game. I looked everywhere for it and just was not able to find the score, but Doniphan West and Hanover, that was the one score we were unable to find last night. For Valley Heights girls, though, they were losers at home against Centralia, a final score of 54-50, as Valley Heights girls dropped to 11-5, 6-2 in conference play. Centralia girls, they're still perfect, 7-0, 14-1 on the season. They're currently leading in the Twin Valley League. Valley Heights boys dropped their contest to Centralia at home last night, 63-47, as they dropped to 5-12 on the season. Lynn girls, a loser at Sylvan Lucas. That's a non-league battle. That was a home contest last night, 61-49. And Lynn boys, losers to Sylvan Lucas, 54-47. Washington County defeated Axtell. Axtell girls, that's a long. Actually, I'm sorry. They beat Axtell girls last night. I got it confused there just for a second. Axtell boys is the team that's playing really good right now. Washington County picks up the 48-32 win. Washington County girls. Washington County boys not able to do the same thing. Losers to Axtell, 56-38. They're sitting at 7-10. Axtell girls, we mentioned they're losers. For Axtell boys, they're at 14-2, 6-2 overall in conference play. Troy girls, losers to Frankfort last night, 51-30. Frankfort, one of our area teams. Frankfort right now sitting pretty with a record, the Frankfort girls with a record of 13-4 and 8-2 in Twin Valley League play. They are playing pretty good basketball right now. They've only lost one game since the TVL tournament at Onega. They took down Onega on the 25th, took down Clifton Clyde, who's pretty good, beat Blue Valley Randolph. They ended up losing to Centralia. Centralia is very good, and beating Axtell and Troy. Frankfort boys, they're 8-9. They lost their contest to Troy last night, 37-29. So they're sitting at 8-9, 4-6 in league play. Without that score, though, for Doniphan West, not able to give you an update of the standings through last night, but currently Clifton Clyde boys leading. They kind of have a tie with Centralia boys, although Clifton Clyde boys have played 2 extra league games over Centralia. Hanover boys sitting at 13-3. We can't obviously add that game from last night, but the Twin Valley League, definitely a lot of competition so far going on in the standings. All right, let's bump over now to KBCA rankings, the new rankings out this week. Really no changes at the top from last week. Wichita Heights still the number 1 team in 6A boys. Mays South the number 1 team in 5A boys. McPherson number 1 in 4A boys. Beloit is 1 in 3A. Linden 1 in 2A. South Gray 1A Division 1, they're number 1. And Northern Valley is number 1 in Division 2 1A. Some of the area teams we mentioned earlier in the first segment, Junction City boys, they're currently 4th in 6A rankings. Rock Creek, they're coming in at 7th again this week. They're sitting behind Abilene, who has not lost a game. Boy, I know they're out of conference, but that'd be a great matchup to watch. Top team in the Mid-East League and the top team in the NCKL. That'd be pretty fun to watch that one, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. That's pretty awesome. St. George, Rock Creek, they're 7th currently in the 4A boys rankings. Again, not a ton of changes pretty much out of the boys' side of things. Over on the girls' side, Shawnee Mission South, they're sitting there at 1 in 6A girls. Andover sitting at 1 in 5A girls. You got Bishop Miege at 1 in 4A girls. They stay in the same spot. Wamego again checks in at 2 this week in 4A girls. But you have to think after a tough week for them where they went 1-1, they may drop down a couple of spots. Fort Scott is behind Wamego at 3, with Wellington coming in at 4 and McPherson coming in at 5. Over on the 3A girls side, Silver Lake checks in at 1. We mentioned they beat Rossville last night. Topeka Hayden comes in at 2, but Topeka Hayden's probably going to drop back as well, as is Rossville. Halstead coming in at 4, with Nemaha Central out of Seneca coming in at 5. So we could see Halstead and Nemaha Central bumping up and taking the spots that Topeka Hayden and Rossville hold. Riverside sitting at 1 in 2A. Little River at 1 over in 1A Division 1, with Frankfort checking in at 5 there. Clifton Clyde checks in at 3 in the 1A Division 1 girls rankings. And then in 1A Division 2 girls, you got Labo checking in. You got Hanover coming in at 4. Hanover having an excellent season. Weren't able to find that score, unfortunately, last night in their ball game against Doniphan West, but that's pretty impressive. So the rankings kind of sitting the same. Wamego girls probably going to drop back maybe a spot or two. We'll have to see what happens, but didn't check Bishop Miege because we don't usually use them as an area team, but Bishop Miege sitting at 1. They've been at 1 for a while now. But we could see definitely a bump up. The biggest changes, as I said, 3A, we're going to see changes because Topeka Hayden lost 2 last week. Rossville lost to the number 1 team in Silver Lake. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes, I feel, in 3A, and we're going to talk about it next week. KBCA ranking's important. Of course, we're in that stretch drive right now where things are very, very important. Just want to make sure I was right here. Yeah, Little River, they had an updated ranking. I had to make sure. Centralia checks in at 3 on the 1A rankings. Clifton Clyde actually down at 7, so I was wrong. Clifton Clyde was sitting, I think, at 3 in their original rankings. They made a mistake. KBCA did. Clifton Clyde at 7. So that's the big thing that we have to discuss. All right, final minutes here on the podcast. Of course, the Kim Commando Show coming up next at 9:03 here on News Radio KMAN. We'll be back next week, 8 o'clock, same time, same place, giving you all the scores, standings, coach interviews, and updates. It's been a pleasure, of course, to be on this show this year. You know, we've seen a lot of changes here on this show, trying to get more interviews with coaches and players, and you know, I appreciate all the coaches that have come on and provided the insight, that have talked to us this year. I want to thank Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, Colby Van Camp for helping us out, Owen Burke for helping us out, and it's been a fun show this year. And as we get into the stretch drive of the regular season, as they like to say in baseball, the stretch drive. And, as we get into postseason, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. We had very good response to the first podcast up on Spotify last week. Again, make sure to check that out. Go to Spotify, type in K-Man Scoreboard Saturday, and hit that follow button. You won't miss an episode. If you can't tune in at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings, we got the podcast for you. It's the entire show. You get to listen to my obnoxious voice. No, I'm kidding, obviously, with that. But you get to listen to my voice and great interviews from all the coaches, get the standings and scores, because that's what we're here for. We're glad to provide you the latest updates on high school sports. Chiefs and 49ers tomorrow. We have coverage for you here on K-Man beginning at 1. I know I picked the Ravens. I did that on purpose, as you guys probably know. I unfortunately, I have a feeling the Chiefs are going to win tomorrow. We haven't seen a back-to-back Super Bowl champion in 20 years. And I'm thinking the Chiefs are going to beat the 49ers. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong. I'm just making a prediction. Don't get mad at me. I'm just trying to make a prediction and try to maybe I'll be right. Maybe I'll end up being right. Last year I picked the Eagles. I was the only one in our little group that we had to pick the Eagles. So anyways, but yeah, excuse me. But yeah, it's I'm going to go with the Chiefs tomorrow. Of course, we got K-State women. That's on here and over on our sister station, Sunny 102.5. 3 o'clock pregame today. And then, of course, we'll have K-State men, 8 o'clock pregame today. K-State women, they're taking on Oklahoma State at 4 today. That's the tip-off. And then K-State men in Provo. First time they're going to Provo in a while. Take on the 21st-ranked BYU Cougars. That's going to be a big ball game, to say the least. K-State trying to keep the momentum going after another overtime victory. And I'd say the goal in that one is just get it into overtime. Jerome Tang is 11-0 in overtime as the head coach at Kansas State University. That's pretty impressive. And, yeah, K-State, hopefully they can continue the momentum. Hopefully that KU win was something to kind of get the juices flowing for K-State. I hope we can see this team finally get on a good run as we head into the final weeks. Of course, Kim Commando's show coming up next. We got K-State women here later today. 3 o'clock pregame here on K-Man and Sunny 102.5. 8 o'clock pregame for K-State men as they will take on BYU later tonight here on K-Man Super Bowl tomorrow. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Stay warm, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place here on Scoreboard Saturday. Go Chiefs. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks.